A failure of the network to be able to carry the kind of services is one thing. Another failure could be of the consumer electronic devices that are plugged into the network, over which the primary provider of the network won't necessarily have complete control. I mean, say if you think that's not true, but where do we think we are with standards? We heard a little bit about DLNA. As far as that's concerned, I mean, how close to what true plug and play are we?
Well, there's plug and play, which is about initial configuration. That's getting there. I mean, it has been slow. Plug and play is, plug and play as in UPnP, et cetera, has improved and is now becoming quite good. But that's actually only part of the problem. That's to get it going initially. A much bigger problem, in my view, is what happens when it subsequently doesn't work. Now, I think it would be a very brave service provider who actually took on responsibility for an entire home network and an arbitrary set of connected end devices. I just don't think it's going to be like that. I think, again, it's going to be yet another hybrid solution in the sense that there will be managed devices, but some of those will be managed by the service provider. You might get third parties who undertake a sort of a slightly aggregated management role, but I can't really see full-blown network management taking place. But it's going to be just sufficient. It's got to be just sufficient to keep the customer happy, but it's also got to be affordable from the service provider point of view.
I mean, this brings us to an absolutely key debate. I mean, I'm sure some people would argue that you must have a unilateral manager of the network, otherwise you'll get chaos.
Yeah, well, those people will be wrong.
Well, that's what we like. That's what we like to hear in a debate. Neil, wrong?
They're definitely wrong.
Oh, okay.
I mean, clearly, what we're seeing is that there's two different worlds here. There's one is the connected digital TV, which is trying to add content. You see it often with Netflix and stuff being delivered to the TV, which is a kind of retail, not network-controlled device. Then you see the network-controlled, whether it's one of the pay TV operators, and they are effectively going to end up managing the tuner, the actual PVR that's sitting in the house, and that will be effectively the certified box. And then whatever you connect in is at your own risk, effectively. They may have a list of certified devices that they will say will work with it, which will obviously be their second, third room boxes and a set of TVs, connected digital televisions. But ultimately, they can't be responsible for every possible consumer electronics device. The only thing I would say is that we've been very surprised how well these different devices, because obviously we work very, very closely, Axis being headquartered in Japan, worked very closely on the DLNA certification, interoperability, IoT testing, and it is amazing how many of these devices do actually talk to each other. You would think that it would be more chaotic and more unreliable, but it does seem to be actually working at the moment. Hopefully it will continue in the future. But really, what I'm sort of suggesting is that this DVR that's central to the home becomes a media server, is effectively the quality controlled and tested domain entry point for the house, and then all the other devices hang off it effectively.
But that runs counter to the philosophy that somebody like a pay television provider, or possibly an ISP, or the telco, or the MSO cable operator will become the home network manager.
I think they'll then be able to offer different levels of how much the network is managed. You see different levels of service, with normal telephone. And if you want to have your home network installed for you, and whether it's some kind of power plug or whether it's some Wi-Fi or whatever hybrid type service, these are all opportunities for the operator to help people out. But just saying they're going to deliver this whole managed service, for free as part of your £50 installation, I think is non-viable for anybody.
Well, running a non-viable business will be nothing new, will it? For some telcos, telcos and cable companies.
I think it's an opportunity for every part of and it's an opportunity for the customer as well, the viewer. I think they want the problems and the risk taken out of their home network as well. They want to know the answers.
John, so some would argue that means we're just going to end up with a slightly cleverer set-top box with a few more, USB ports on it, which is not what some people would have you believe the home network with some kind of managed gateway is about. I mean, how do you see that evolution in the near term?
So, in the near term, I think, unfortunately, we are heading down the path of a set-top box with being controlled by one provider with a number of ports on it. I think we have to get to a wider stakeholder community to make it become the home hub of controlling all the elements within the home. If we look at where the market is headed at the moment, it's pretty much people with the NBN project, people in Singapore, even in the UK with the ALA project, deliver a pipe to the home, make sure that the pipe is uncontended, put the services on the back end. Now, the ISPs that are on the back end will have the ability to control the flows into the home, but as soon as you start plugging other items into the home, which don't come from that ISP or service provider, you're going to start running into compatibility problems. The ISP or service provider may go to the point where it'll vet certain devices that you can plug in, but I think you're also possibly going to see a world of Geek Squad emerging, which will look after the home in those other areas.
If the pay TV provider or the ISP or whoever who's already got a subscriber relationship in that home doesn't want to manage that network because it sees it as a non-viable business model because there will be just too many problems, then some kind of third party might come in and take that role.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things you need to consider here. One is any service provider that tries to control the customer is going to end up churning that customer to somewhere else. So I think network relationships are at a point where you've got to give the customer a service that you sell him, you've got to deliver the service properly, the customer's got to be happy with the service, and then the customer's got to be able to put something else across that network that's of value to him, which may not be offered by that ISP. The ISP may find it in his favor to go and join a partnership to try and deliver that service, but he needs to make sure that whatever over-the-top service is delivered as good as his own applications, because if not, the customer's going to end up churning at the end of the day.
And that's both having to manage that gateway to some extent and also have some kind of management over the devices that are connected to the network.
Yeah. I look at it this way. If we satisfied the first question, which is that the network is invisible, it should be no different than the telephone, right? The reality is that none of us here believe that anytime soon it's going to be similar to the telephone. So the ultimate goal is to be in a place where it is completely invisible. Where we are right now is we have dueling factions, kind of like David said. You have a walled garden where the service provider owns the devices, and you have a retail-based product where consumers can bring products in. Now with G.hn, we have the ability to do TR69, which gives the service provider visibility into the network. The question is whether consumer-based devices will also have TR69, will also be visible to the operator. This is an open issue that I don't have an answer to.
And TR69 is kind of beyond DLNA. This is...
so DLNA is a software layer.
Yeah.
TR69 is a hardware infrastructure that allows service providers to look all the way into the network. So for example, AT&T today, with our technology, which was a predecessor to G.hn, can look at 10 million devices from one single desktop. They can look all the way into the network, all the way down to the end device, and see if there's any connectivity problems and so forth. But that is a complete walled garden today. So what's unclear is when you add a DVD player or you add some external device, you have to be able to go all the way down to the physical layer and see if there's a physical connectivity problem or not. And TR69, which is part of the G.hn standard, part of the Broadband Forum actually, will allow that kind of functionality.
But there's yet another angle, hybrid angle to this, in the sense that you could do that, but that would require this kind of functionality in devices which may be not sort of natural at the moment. But I think there's also an important privacy issue here in that I may want to actually, as an end user, take a service which manages various things, but I may well not want the service provider to have, as of right, access to everything I've bought. So it's not just a commercial issue here.